Okay. So it's September 1st, 2006. Let's talk about Ralph. When was he born? What was your life like at the time? And maybe can you talk a little bit about his first year?
He was born in Bitburg, Germany on October the 24th of 1956. And he was born in a military hospital. His father was stationed at Spangdahlem Air Force Base in Germany. And we lived on German economy, which was the first house before he was born. We lived in a house that was a lady and her husband had built for them, and then her husband died, and so she started renting out rooms and made them into little apartments for military personnel to make a living for herself and her two boys that she had left. And then before Ralph was born, we moved to up the street to another house that had 2 rooms in it instead of just 1. And when he was 3 months old, we came back to the United States on board a ship.
To where?
Well, we landed in New York, and your father re-enlisted in the Air Force, and we bought a used car. That was in January. And we drove from...
January of 1957?
Yes. And we drove from New York first to Nebraska, and visited with my parents there, and my brothers and sisters. And then we drove to Oregon to see his parents. But when we left Nebraska, Valentine, Nebraska, we forgot Ralph's formula. And my dad chased us down to get it to us. We hadn't gone a long ways, but he chased us down to give us the formula. And so anyway, we drove to Corvallis, where Owen's folks lived, your dad, and I don't know, we stayed there for a while, and then he had orders to serve in the military in Moses Lake, Washington. And we drove on to Moses Lake, Washington, and the first place we lived in there was a little house that it had a bedroom and a bathroom and a kitchen and living room, but it was just a little square. We always called it a cracker box house, because it was just square like at that time a cracker box was that we used to get. And there were several of them up on top of the hill near the base, and we lived there for a while. And I was trying to think. Of course, I was pregnant again at that time with Paula, and we moved to the other side of town it was a nicer apartment, and it was a little bit bigger. And I think that's where we lived when she was born. I was trying to remember.
What do you remember about Ralph as an infant and a toddler?
Oh, he started walking when he was 10 months old, and he started walking before he ever cut any teeth. He didn't cut he cut his first tooth when he was 12 and a half months old. And that night I went to the hospital to have Paula. And I just remember him running around mostly. And I always thought he looked so cute to be running around and not have any teeth yet. Because most kids have at least one or two teeth when they're running around.
Right.
And I don't know, there was a couple kids that, or one, I think, across the street that we used to get together, the mother and I and the kids. The two boys would play together a little bit, but I don't remember too much about that. And I think at that time we went to, we were going to Methodist Church when Ralph was little. And because I remember him not liking to stay in the nursery. And I don't remember too much. Remember his first birthday, how he smeared cake all over his face. And
What about his first day of school?
I remember walking him to school. He started school in Washington kindergarten. But then your dad got ill and they sent him to the hospital in San Antonio, Texas. And somehow we got transferred down there to San Antonio when Ralph was 6.
This is,
Well,
this
no,
is
yeah,
the year that this is the year we spent in Texas then?
Well, after he started school and went probably from September to, he was almost 6 because in Washington you had to be 5 before school started. And so he wasn't 5 until October, so therefore he had to wait until he was almost 6 to start. And he went for, I think he went until, we went down to, your dad must have gone down to the hospital in around January, or I can't remember for sure.
Yeah, I'm a little confused. I thought Dad contracted the illness while he was deployed to Korea. In Korea.
He did.
So he was deployed from while you lived in Moses Lake, and you stayed there, or?
Well, they didn't know that this was what was causing his problems at the time.
When did he go to Korea?
Before I knew him, he was out. See, I met him in 54. I must have met him in 54 or early 55. And he was just back from Korea at that time.
Oh, okay.
And he had been sick there. But nobody knew what was causing his problems at the time.
And it took a couple more years before it got acute enough to where they put him in the hospital for it.
Right. There's a lot in there. Oh, goodness. I was trying to, I'm trying to think back. When he was in See, I'm not sure whether they found that. Well, I think they did find that out, but they let him stay in the service down in Texas. They let him out of the hospital. And that's why, I think why we all flew down there. You were 3, not quite 4. You were almost 4 when we went down there. And Ralph was 6, and Patricia was 3. Yeah. And then we stayed there for not quite a year. And they gave him a medical discharge. Because I think they must have found out what was wrong then. And they gave him a medical discharge, and we moved to Corvallis.
Okay, that makes sense. So Ralph actually started school in Texas.
No, he actually started school in Moses Lake, Washington. And he didn't get to finish kindergarten because they didn't have kindergarten, public kindergarten in Texas.
Oh, okay.
They only had private. And so he didn't get to finish kindergarten.
So he started first grade in Oregon?
He started first grade in Corvallis, yes.
Do you remember the school?
He would. Roosevelt, I think.
Was that what it was?
Do you remember what school you went to?
It was the same one he was in. I
Okay,
just don't remember.
no, he started in another school. There was I can't remember whether it was Washington or Roosevelt. It was one or the other, because then we moved, and like in the 2nd grade or whenever he was, and he had to transfer to the other school.
No, over to the house on
8th Street.
8th Street, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where you went to school in Corvallis, and where Patricia went to school, until we moved to Salem.
Okay.
But I don't remember whether that was Washington or Roosevelt.
So what year did we move to Salem? Because I was 3rd grade, if I remember right.
Well, it must have been
What would be in 3rd grade?
the summer of... You would have been 8 years old, right?
Okay.
Well, you're 6 in the first, 7 in the second, and 8 in the third. So that would have been... I can't figure in my head tonight.
67. 1967.
Yeah, that's probably about right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if I was in 3rd grade, that meant he was 2 grades ahead of me. So he was 5th grade, and started then in Kennedy with me, right?
Right.
And Patricia. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When he started middle school, do you remember anything? What are your strongest memories about him as a middle school kid? He went to Whitaker?
Yes.
Right.
I can't really remember a lot right that time. I don't remember whether he played football or in middle school or not. I can't remember.
Let's see, would have still been in middle school when Dad died?
No, I think he was, weren't you?
I was still going to Whitaker.
You were?
Yes. I just don't remember what grade I was in.
Well, he died in 74. Your dad did.
Ralph graduated in 76, no, 75.
Yeah.
That means he was in high school. He was already at McNary.
But weren't you in McNary then?
No. I was in Whitaker.
Well, it must have been your last year at Whitaker then.
Probably. Remember, it was junior high back then, not middle school. So there was only 3 grades in high school. There wasn't 4. Anyway.
I can't remember really. I can't remember much, you know, I just don't remember. He had friends. Rick Batone was his friend. You know, remember him hanging out, whatever the word was then, hanging out with Rick Batone. And
hobbies, interests.
I think he was more into sports than anything else. I don't remember him having any hobbies. I remember you having some. I don't remember him having any.
What about high school? What's your strongest memories about Ralph around the time that Dad died?
He wanted to quit school. Because he was supposedly thought at the time, you know, it was sort of like, well, now I've got to quit school and help take care of the family, sort of. And I said, no, that's not what your dad would want you to do. And he did, you know, he didn't quit school. I remember he had a very steady girlfriend, Belinda, who used to get up early in the morning and go take her to school. She lived across town, and then come back. And he started working pretty early too. First, I remember him having a job in that little, an old grocery store down where Bi-Mart and everything is now.
Mm-hmm.
Down River Road, there was a grocery store. And I think that was his first job. He used to be a box boy, I think. He may have different recollections, but I believe that was it.
Okay.
And remember him borrowing my car to take Belinda to the prom after I got my new car. Remember him having these pictures of all this beer he was taking to the coast for some kind of graduation party after he graduated. How could I have been so dumb?
Say that again. He did
You can
what?
cut this out. Well, I remember seeing pictures. Now, I don't know whether I actually knew this at the time, but I know he had pictures of him with having this beer that they were going to take. I think they went to the coast. I'm not sure. He went with some senior.
It was pretty common back then for the senior graduating, people from graduating to go over to the coast, yeah.
And
what's your the funniest story you remember about Ralph from childhood, no matter what age, I guess?
you want me to think, don't you?
Yeah, I guess.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if that was funny. He used to always act up in pictures, but that's not really
you remember a time when he did something silly or stupid or something like that. And
Well, I remember when I was pregnant with Patricia, we were sitting eating and talking about having another baby, and he wanted to know how it got there. And I remember looking at your father, and I said, well, you explain that one. And your father said to Ralph, well, how do you think it got there? And Ralph said, well, you put it there. And that was all that was said. He was satisfied with.
so he would have been 4
He was.
when you were pregnant with Patty? 4 or 5. No older than 5.
Yeah. Well, she was born in 60. He was born in
56.
56.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like a pretty typical 4-year-old question and answer
Probably.
on that subject.
Yeah. And, he was satisfied with what he got. I remember when Paul was alive, and I think we had pictures of him, he would go in there and she'd be laying on a bed, and he'd go in and reach down and kiss her. And he'd always meet me when she was still alive and at home. He would, a couple times, she wasn't home very long, but he would make me aware that she was crying, and I don't remember how he did it, but he made me aware that she needed me if I wasn't right there. And I got pictures of him whenever he was kneeling or did have pictures, I don't know, kneeling at the bed, he was praying. And I don't know, it seems like he's about, I don't know how old he was. Must have been before anybody else, or after Paula. I don't know whether I had pictures of that or not. It seems like it. I could see it in my mind. Maybe not. But I always thought was...
Was Ralph named after anybody?
Yes. His 2 grandfathers. My father and Owen's father. Ralph for my father and Louis for Owen's father.
Was it Grandpa's middle name?
It was... I think so, but I'm not sure. It could have been moved around. He always went by Justin.
Right. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah,
because
and
I don't remember being called Louis.
No, I think it was Justin Lewis.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
But because it makes sense, but I'm not positive at this moment.
Okay. Anything else on Ralph?
Well, you were asking me when he was little. I remember and I thought of this when he was, he climbed up on a picnic table in our backyard when we lived on base, and I was pregnant with Paula, and he fell off the table, and I think he had, well, no, that must have been when I was pregnant with you, because he was old enough, and he had 2 front teeth, and he didn't have any other on the side, and he fell off the picnic table, and has a little scar below his lower lip where his 2 teeth went into his...
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah. That was... and we used to hire the 12-year-old twins that lived behind us to babysit with him once in a while. Right now I can't think of... don't know too much else.
Okay.
I probably could think of something, but...
Okay,
You're ready
so
to
tell me
phone
about Paula.
Okay. She was born on November 11th, 1957 at Moses Lake, Washington. Grandma, I think Grandma Keeney came out to stay. No, that was when you were born, I think. I can't remember for sure whether anybody, but anyway, Grandma Lester and Grandpa Lester came up. They were there visiting, I believe, when we, oh gee, I wish I could remember this one. Because I know Grandma was there when she was born. And
Grandma Pauline.
Grandma, yes, Lester.
Right.
And she said, she looks so blue. And the doctor said, she's just cold. She'll warm up. And anyway, you know, I took her home and, oh dear, I have to think about this. I had a civilian doctor for her. Oh wow, listen, so she was not born on the base. She was born in a civilian hospital. And anyway, we took her home. And she didn't gain any weight, and she would cry a lot. And I took her to the doctor, and it was a civilian doctor. And, you know, they checked her over and couldn't find anything wrong with her. And she wasn't gaining any weight.
And how long was this?
And, well, I think she was in the hospital for 4 weeks before she died. So she was only about we only had her home about 3 weeks.
Okay.
And I remember when she went to the hospital, I'd been talking to the doctor, and I called him and I said, you know, she just cries and cries. And he said, well, does she have a temperature? And I said, no, she does not have a temperature. In fact, it's below normal. And he said, well, there can't be much wrong with her if she doesn't have a temperature. And anyway, I was sitting there holding her, crying on the couch. I remember that. And your father came home from work, and we took her to the base hospital. And they put her in the hospital that night, and she never came home again. She was in there for weeks, and somebody had to stay with her all the time. And Grandma Keeney came up to stay and help with Ralph, because somebody had to stay with her all the time.
Meaning you
in
were
the
Dad.
hospital, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the night before, I guess it was the same day, really. She passed away during the night, but they sent her and I up to Madigan Army Hospital because they had not found what was wrong with her yet. And we flew up there. They flew us up there. And your dad and Grandma Keeney and Ralph drove up. And when they gave me a room in the hospital, and they took the baby, of course. I don't think I doubt if I even, she was probably in some kind of, can't remember that on the plane, what they transported her in. I would suppose the same kind of, like they had a tent over her and everything, so I suppose the same kind of thing on the airplane. I remember it in the hospital room, but I don't remember in the hospital.
Like an oxygen tent, you mean?
Well, I don't know whether it was oxygen exactly, but it was moisture, you know, and things. It could have been oxygen, I just can't remember. Anyway, we got there and they took her in, and she was not there very long, and they came and told me that she had died. And that was a little difficult because I was all alone in this room with nobody but me. And your dad was on his way up, and it was...
He wasn't flying, he was driving?
No, him and Grandma Keeney and Ralph.
So did they not find out until after they arrived?
Until they got there, yeah. And then I guess we must have had her, they must have shipped her to Corvallis.
How did they find out what was wrong? Did they do an autopsy?
Yeah, they did an autopsy. That's when they found out what was wrong.
And that was?
She had a congenital heart defect. She had a hole in her heart. Where now they could have even that day, if they'd found that in time, I think they could have done something about it, but I don't know that. I think that, but I guess only God knows. And anyway, Grandma Keeney wanted to, not Grandma Keeney, Grandma Lester wanted to dress her for the funeral. I remember that.
You know why?
She just wanted to. She asked if she could do it. And I think it was because, she had always wanted a girl, and their last child was a girl who was stillborn. And then we had Paula, and she only lived a little while. And she just wanted to, I guess, wanted to dress her. And then my folks, my parents and your Aunt Trula and Uncle Howard drove out for the funeral. And we buried her in Corvallis, and life went on, and we went back to Moses Lake.
Was that hard for you and Dad to cope with?
Well, yeah, I guess, it was. But I guess we had one that we had to take care of, so we had to go on. I remember your dad coming home from work, like the first day, and after he went back to work, and he said, I want to be by myself, and he went in the bedroom. And I don't know, but I always felt that, everybody had been saying something to him, and he just needed alone time.
Yeah.
And, it was hard in different times, but Ralph was little enough that he still needed me a lot. He was only a little over a year old.
Right.
And,
so you had the distraction of caring for an
Yeah.
infant.
But I can remember, going through her clothes or something. And, I would start crying, but a little bit. Anyway.
In the rush for the weather bow. There, all hands were already.